Thank you for coming. I'm Susan. Most of you guys I know, so thank you for coming. Because the only way that I can present is from the bias of what I've learned and experienced and studied and practiced. So I've spent a lot of time in this very room practicing and teaching. I started teaching here in 1999. I concurrently spent a lot of time studying different forms of energy healing. I started off with Reiki. I did 4 years. The Barbara Brennan School of Healing. Has anybody heard of that? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So Barbara Brennan was a physicist who worked for the NASA Goddard Space Labs. So it's kind of fun to say she really was a rocket scientist. Trainings, but in the Buddhist tradition that's called Bun, B-O-N with the little dots. People are nodding. People have heard of Bun. So the Bun tradition, it is a Buddhist tradition. It predates Buddhism in Tibet, so it was actually not their language, but language we might understand, a shamanistic tradition, right? Working with the energy, working with the body, working with what we would know is probably a tantric viewpoint, the physical body. And I've been studying that tradition for over a decade, so that has a big influence as well.
Our idea of what we are is largely dominated by the work of Sir Isaac Newton, who in the 17th century demystified our world with radical new ideas explaining the mechanics of motion and gravity. Out of these laws grew our understanding of the human body and the belief that if we can reduce anything, including us, to its smallest constituent parts, we will fully know it. As technology evolved, we learned that everything, including us, is made up of elemental building blocks. Some of our irreducible elements include carbon, sulfur, calcium. Recognize yourself? This list of elements grew into a precisely ordered table. It was immensely satisfying in its organization. Everything in the phenomenal world is composed of elements from this finite list. So the man, the rock, the tree below, even the gear that is keeping him safely attached to his precarious perch is composed of elements. And yet, intuitively, we were not satisfied because we also knew that there is something fundamentally different about man, rock, tree, and air. Last century, Albert Einstein once again challenged prevailing beliefs with newer, more radical theories, not laws, but theories with insubstantial names like relativity and non-locality, and even worse, uncertainty. We learned that all the elements are made of yet smaller parts called atoms, and that most of their parts are not even parts at all, but indication for states of energy. Even more unsettling, between the parts that weren't parts was all that space. It was so alarming that physics lost a lot of scientists to the math department, where order continued to rule. To put it into perspective, if we could enlarge an atom to the size of a football field, the nucleus would be the size of a tomato seed. Orbiting around the perimeter of the field, the size of a virus would be the first electron. Leaving scientists puzzling this dilemma, we move from laboratory to monastery and cave and the keepers of wisdom traditions. Yogis, mystics, and spiritually oriented beings have gleaned their understanding, like scientists, through years of rigorous observation, self-inquiry, and systematic polishing. The emerging model of who and what we are is supported by a collaboration of wisdom, traditions, and science. Our new ancient view is called the subtle body. The word subtle suggests a more sophisticated vantage point, more profound and refined than physical and mechanical. Texts from yoga and Buddhism and Asian medicine describe channels of energy that reside throughout the body. These nadis, or little rivers, are said to number between 72,000 and 350,000, depending on who you ask. Additionally, there are textual references to chakras. The literal translation of chakra is a wheel of any kind. In this sense, it refers to spinning energy centers in our energy bodies that allow for an exchange of energy. The subtle body also expresses in koshas, or levels of energy that are layered and extend past the physical body into surrounding space. Most of us know this as the human aura. Energy is also described by elemental properties, and rather than meaning a substance, elemental energy refers to a quality familiar to us in our experience of earth, water, fire, air, and space. Energy flows in our bodies along pathways or energy channels. Variations appear in channel placement, quantity, and color, but most wisdom traditions agree on the basic premises that there are three main energy channels in the core of the body: a central channel, a right channel, and a left channel. The right and left channels originate along the midline, 4 finger widths below the navel, and culminate at the same side nostril. Though the three main energy channels are usually presented as parallel, it is said that the left and right channels actually spiral and loop around the central channel in infinite variations. The Dalai Lama says not to be too concerned about the details because we are all quite different. The right, or solar channel, relates to masculine energies of acting, doing, being seen. It is the Ha of Hatha Yoga. The left, or lunar channel, relates to the feminine energies of receiving, being, and what is not revealed. It is the Tha of Hatha Yoga. And while the right and left channels have a lot to do with being here in our bodies in this life, the central channel is the domain of energetic essence that is eternal. As the right and left channels come into balance, the central channel energy becomes more accessible. The right channel expresses in structures and organs on the right side, including liver, gallbladder, and the right hemisphere of the brain. Obscurations of the right channel manifest as anger, aggression, and separation. The left channel has its expression on the left side of the body and includes the spleen and the heart. Energetic obscurations of the left channel manifest as jealousy, attachment, and clinging. The central channel is along the front line of the spine, moving from the crown of the head to the floor of the pelvis. It is inextricably connected to the central nervous system. Obscurations of the central channel present as ignorance. Most systems of energy anatomy designate 7 major chakras. They are found both in the body and extending past the body, connecting us to our environment in an energy dialogue. The second chakra, as an example, has 6 smaller vortices making up the larger vortex of the chakra. In the top view, the overlapping vortices have a flower-like appearance. The 7 major chakras taper as they track deeper into the body and ultimately seat in the central channel. Ideally, they are open to what is out there and in energetic exchange with what is inside of us. The major chakras are often rendered in gradiating colors, representing the quality of energy associated with each chakra. Colors are light of different wavelengths or frequency. In the spectrum of visible light, longer wavelength energy appears as red, while shorter wavelength energy looks purple. This illustration gives an idea of how different areas of the body are associated with different chakras. The koshas, or levels of the energy field, are intrinsic to the body and extend past the body. How these levels are delineated again varies between systems and models, and again consensus reigns on the main themes. Our energy field is interconnected with the surrounding energies all the time, not just the physical environment, but all the other energy fields as well. Energy closer to the body is denser and slower. As we move away from the body, the energy becomes consistently finer, from physical to emotional to mental to spiritual. Though we may be familiar with imagery of our energy field shown in amorphous floating colors, some levels of the field are actually structured, meaning that the energy moves along organized lines rather than floating freeform. Diffusion tensor imaging reveals energy flow in the brain in the image on the top. It gives a sense of the grid-like appearance of structured levels. These levels form a container or a boundary for the unstructured levels. We talk about our energy field having a specific number of levels. More likely it extends much, much further. The further it goes, the subtler it gets. And perhaps this explains how unusual communication and connection can sometimes occur. Everyone and everything has an energy field. Our energy is interacting with all that other energy all the time, whether or not we are aware of it. This can be a good thing or not such a good thing, depending on what we come into contact with. Much like tuning forks that find common resonance when they are near each other, we get in sync with the energy we are in contact with. This can help us create better harmony and balance in our own field, or if the energy we are exposed to is discordant, the impact to our energy can be very negative. Choose consciously. With energy, like attracts like. Whatever energy you are exposed to promotes like energy in your own field to flourish, so choosing who and what you are influenced by is likely as important as parents believe it is for their teenagers. When you practice yoga in a group setting, you benefit from the collective effort and concentration that is present. An energy container is made by the entire class. In a Mysore-style class, where yoga practitioners appear to be working very differently at first glance, the deeper level of focused attention and concentration is still present. The reasons for practicing yoga may be distilled to simply this: consciousness resides throughout the body. Energy is the template for everything we experience. Change the template, and the experience changes. If you would like to learn more about how our energy bodies work, please join me for a 3-part class, Illuminating the Subtle Body, 3 consecutive Saturdays from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m., July 27th through August 10th at the Yoga Workshop. Register online at www.yogaworkshop.com.